my pay. Sometimes I can't see why I have to agree. Some days I even bleed. I just wanna be free. I've gotta go now, I've gotta go now, I've gotta go and get away. I've gotta go now, I've gotta go and get away. And get away now.
Welcome to our camper trailer torture test. The aim of this exercise was to take 6 Mitsubishi tow vehicles and 6 different camper trailers and subject them to the most severe bush conditions we could find. And as you will see, that's exactly what we got. We started on the east coast, did the inevitable bitumen track, and on the way we stopped off for a bit of tourist fun near Quilpie. We did a little fossicking and had a welcome lunch break at this great spot.
It's good to dream. You know what I mean? It's good to dream. It's good to dream. It's good to dream. You know what I mean? It's good to dream. It's good to dream.
We had our first real bush camp just near Windora, beautiful spot in a river channel where we put the camper trailers in the environment we expected them to be in for the rest of the trip. We love bush camping because there's plenty of room to move around and you can have a nice friendly campfire. And this spot was just perfect.
It's good to dream. It's good to dream. You know what I mean? It's good to dream. It's good to dream.
And this camp was a good opportunity to put some rear window protection on the wagons because we were heading for stony roads and flying stones can easily break a towing vehicle's back window. Yeah, I know these stone guards reflect most of the stones down, but you can't be too sure. You can get a freak stone that'll just fly up and hit, even off the winch housing or off the bin, if there's enough energy in it. And it just smash the back window. Which is then nasty because it sucks in an odd bit of dust.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is going to see how well these go with the wind coming.
Yeah, well, this plastic core flute's better than cardboard because if cardboard gets wet, it's not a great deal of use.
No.
This plastic, it's like plastic cardboard,
You on?
really. Yep.
Right.
It's very absorbent. It'll take a good stone whack, and if it gets wet, it retains its strength where
Cardboard doesn't.
cardboard doesn't.
Yeah.
And if you style it right, it just looks like a tinted window, doesn't it?
It looks like it's made for the
Better put his wiper
job.
back.
Made for the job.
Don't turn the wiper on. One of the highlights of visiting the beautiful little town of Windora is fueling up at the local service station. Where the console operator is blind, and this guy is just marvellous. What you can do with your fingertips.
Cheers, buddy.
Thank you.
We'll see you next year.
While we were running along the narrow bitumen strip and the rain was starting to patter a little more heavily, we noticed something on the side of the road that made us turn around and have a look. A most unusual sight. This is a very rare beast out in the bush. To find a wooden mileage marker, it's very old. We're on the Windora to Baduri road, and there are quite a few of these along this stretch. It's fascinating because the borers haven't eaten them, termites haven't eaten them, and it's as good as new. You can still see the mileage marks on it. A rare sight. We'd had a few spits of rain at our bush camp overnight, so as we left Windora, we were driving into quite threatening skies. We weren't worried about the first 100 kilometres because that's narrow blacktop, but the next 260 into the little hamlet of Baduri is formed earth road, and it runs through the channel country, including the famous Diamantina channels. So we were quite concerned if the rain became any heavier. However, our hopes for improving weather were in vain. It soon began to rain quite heavily, and out here 20 mils of rain will close a road because it's flat and there are only shallow channels. There's nowhere for the water to go, and the roads aren't designed for rainy weather. So what had started off as an interesting drive became a survival drive because already the channels were filling and the edges of the road were saturated, so we couldn't go back even if we wanted to. The Mitsubishi traction and stability control systems worked very well. It was frustrating for old-timer drivers who would prefer to have been able to gun the vehicles out of some of the channels because the traction control system restricts horsepower in these circumstances. So it was a bit frustrating to press on the loud pedal and not get much response. But the vehicles kept straight and the trailers kept pretty straight, and we did an excellent job of getting out of survival conditions. We came across a surveyor in a solo vehicle, and he was surprised to see that we'd got through it all. He had a big spin and he was as wide as a sheet. Great fun, great footage, but we don't really want to do it again. Nothing, absolutely nothing, looked better than the bitumen slab at the edge of the run into Baduri. We'd made it. We spent 2 happy days in Baduri. We had no choice because the rain had shut all the roads in and out. So we cooled our heels at the Simpson Desert Oasis and waited for the weather to improve, which it did. We toured the town and spent a bit of time using the free bore water to give the trailers a much needed clean before we headed out the next morning. The road was 4-wheel drive only because even though most of it's bitumen, there are some muddy patches and there was still a lot of water lying around from the downpour. At Marion Downs, where the dirt recommenced, it was deja vu for us, slip sliding around in the mud, but we all got through quite safely to the welcoming sign of Boulia.
Have a clue.
We set up camp at the excellent campsite in Boulia on the riverbank, and after 2 days in motel accommodation in Baduri, it was great to be back in our mobile homes away from home. After we set up, we headed into town to check out the road conditions, hoping against hope that the Plenty Highway would be open. Unfortunately, the road reports were not good. Well, troops, we're in the middle of road closure territory. We've managed to get to Boulia, but the road we wanted across to the Alice is shut, and it's going to be shut for a couple of days. So we'll have to take the coward's way out, I think, and go up round the blacktop through Mount Isa, and then we'll come into Alice from the north. They reckon this will be shut for quite some time. Crosses a lot of channels, and we don't want to cut roads up. In any case, it's shut, so you never drive on a closed road. So blacktop for a few days. So we might as well shop and fuel here in Boulia, and we'll saddle up for Mount Isa. Shame, but that's it. On our way to Mount Isa, we pulled up for a roadside lunch stop. It's great to have a camper trailer with all your food and refrigeration and stove on board. You can pull up wherever you like, and you have the pleasure of your own food instead of having to rely on takeaways.
We've been here for about 2 minutes and we're now eating our beautiful cooked soup. The whole thing is just perfect.
Even the cameraman deserved a hot dog. We rolled into Mount Isa and fueled up at Shell. Interestingly, this was the cheapest fuel we got on the whole trip. The next highlight on the way to Alice was the magnificent Devil's Marbles. And we arrived there close to sunset, so the light was just magnificent. We didn't have much time to spend at the Devil's Marbles, unfortunately, because with darkness approaching, we wanted to settle into the campsite at Walkup, which has a very friendly bar as well, so we had a great night there.
morning we packed up, filled the water tanks and headed down to Alice, not knowing quite what we'd find.
Right, gather round troops. It's raining in Alice, so I think camping isn't going to be much fun. So John's from NT Tourism's chasing up to see what sort of accommodation there is, and we'll be able to leave the camper trailers in the secure lock-up at NT Tourism's yard. So that saves hauling the trailers all around town, and they'll be safe there. So we'll ring him when we get nearer town and see what we can do. The rain's in till Tuesday night, apparently.
Sheesh.
Can't believe it.
He said it's
Central Australia in winter, it never rains.
Well, the guy up at the bunk where we just stopped said it was raining completely from Alice up to Catherine.
So going north's not the answer
That's
either.
right.
The Kintor Road's shut, and he's not sure about Tanami, but everything's just wet. But we'll be able to play around the Alice region and do the torture test, all right, because it's rocky and steep. There's no shortage of stuff to play on.
Excellent.
But I don't think we'll be getting to the Pilbara. I don't think anyone will be getting to the Pilbara.
We're also surprised to find the Todd River with water in it.
Well, this is a sight I've never seen. I've been to Alice Springs many times. I'm standing in the Todd River, which has actually got water in it. It's flooded. Amazing.
Going a little bit more, Robert. A little bit more. Keep going. A bit more. Good.
After a comfortable night's stay at Lassiter's, well away from the rain that was plaguing Alice Springs, we awoke to a beautifully fine day and no more fog. So we used the freeway bridge at Alice Springs to check the axle weights of the vehicles and trailers before we headed for our off-road testing circuit. Our destination for the night was the bush camping area at Red Bank Gorge. So we drove out along the Blacktop, passing the beautiful West MacDonnell Ranges along the way, and looked forward to a balmy night under the stars. It didn't quite work out that way. The sky was clear enough when we went to bed, but not long after we woke to the soft patter of rain. A wine glass we'd left out had about 30 mils of water in it, so it was quite a dump. In the morning we could hear the river that we'd crossed easily on the way in, so we drove down to have a look, and what we saw were fast rising waters, and there was no way we'd cross. Clearly we were going to spend 2 nights in Red Bank Gorge before we'd get to Roma. One intrepid camper from another group decided to check out the depth and flow of the river. It soon became quite obvious that no one was going to cross this day. So because we were stuck in Red Bank Gorge, we went for a drive and intended to walk to the tip of the gorge, which is a beautiful stroll. However, we had a surprise for us in store when we got down to the walk, because the river that was flooded and stopped us getting out had its partner, which was even more flooded. So the normally dry riverbed to the gorge was a raging torrent. It's amazing in this country how quickly the rivers rise after rain and fall when there's fine weather. We were lucky to have a beautiful sunny day after the huge downpour and no rain overnight. So the next morning we checked the river out and then packed our gear up, and by the time we had the trailers loaded we found the river almost back to dry weather levels. So we had an easy creek crossing, escaping from Red Bank Gorge, and headed off for Roma Gorge. Because there was a lot of water lying around, we thought it best to do a recce in the vehicles without the trailers behind them. So we headed up the gorge and found a path that we thought the trailers would be able to get through. Still testing, but not brutal. We found one quite wet patch where Mitsubishi's optional diff lock came into its own. The vehicle was stuck, lock engaged, and out it came. Having done our solo vehicle recce, we knew we could get the trailers through. It would still be testing, of course. But the creek was still up, so we thought we'd have morning tea and let water level drop even further. Our testers now were so used to their camper trailers that setting up for morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea was a breeze. It had become second nature by now. Jeffrey and Brenda were keeping a watch on the creek level, so pretty soon we were able to move. I got on the sat phone to check out the weather, and it wasn't looking all that favourable once more. Now it was rock testing time, and we headed up this stony, ripped up river gorge. We were a little concerned about damaging trailers and couplings, but we needn't have worried. All the trailers handled this quite well. One particularly lumpy section had the traction control systems working overtime. And we were a little concerned in these conditions that the longer drawbar trailers might get hung up. But we soon found that wherever the towing vehicle could struggle with its traction control working, the trailers would track along behind very nicely. The couplings dug in, but all of these vehicles are designed for bush conditions, so the couplings are reasonably well protected by the drawbar design. Traction control makes a huge difference when you're towing in the bush, because you don't have to bash at things to get over them. You can ease into a gully and then power out gently with the traction control, making sure you're not getting wheel spin. It's much better on the vehicle and it's much better on the trailer, especially if you've got eggs in the fridge. We were very interested to see that the leaf-sprung beam axle trailers didn't have any ground clearance issues at all. We expected that the independent suspension vehicles would have an advantage in this difficult terrain, but the old-fashioned, reliable and easy to repair leaf spring and beam axle still has its place. Mind you, the independent suspension units certainly have excellent ride quality, and that type of suspension makes them very stable on road as well. With that part of our rock testing finished successfully, we drove up to the car park and stretched our legs walking around beautiful stone peck carvings at Roma Gorge.
I think lunch first, and then we go looking at the rock pickings in the gorge.
We're very lucky to be allowed to visit this place because this is an Aboriginal initiation site, and most of these sites are not available for touring, so we caution people if they visit Roma Gorge to take great care of the stone peckings. Quite a place, and we've never seen it with so much water in it. The reflections are just beautiful. After wandering around Roma Gorge, we mounted up and headed out of this beautiful spot. There's no camping in Roma Gorge, so we went in pursuit of a nice bush camp for the night. While setting up the camper trailers might have been a little tricky for all of us in the early days, now halfway through the torture test, the crews were all experts, and there was some subtle competition as to who could be first set up, and in the morning who could be first packed away. It was all getting very easy.
Enough? Up to you. Enough, thank you. Thank you. Much as we hate to shut Pete up, we've got to talk about tomorrow. We've had a heap of fun today in Roma Gorge with trailers, where I didn't think we'd get the trailers in, and some of it was nice and testing, and I think everyone had a bit of fun.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow will be even more testing, I think, because we're heading for Boggy Hole, which didn't get called Boggy Hole for fun, and we've had so much rain, as you know. Alice Springs had 70 mil last year, and this year it's had nearly 600 mil halfway through the year, so it'll be wet down there, but we're here to test trailers and vehicles, so it'll be just perfect. Nice drive.
Actually, the worst part of my
Next morning we packed up and headed off for Hermansburg and Boggy Hole. The crew was really slick by now. The camper trailers were packed up in no time. The drive out from our bush camp wasn't as demanding as yesterday's drive, but beautiful nonetheless. This is a magnificent part of Australia. We just love it. Along the way to Hermannsburg, we took the detour to Goss Bluff. It's a very rough access road, which was further testing for us on some stony creek crossings, but well worth it to visit this sensational meteorite crater. It must have been a hell of a bang when this was created.
Two campers and cars will fit in that bay. We'll continue around and see what else we can find.
We enjoyed a leg stretch from the car park, walking up to the lookout, where it's possible to survey the whole extent of the crater. We did a bit of theorising on why some of the rock is white and some of it's red. We reckon the desert varnish has coated the outside. When we crossed one of the causeways on the way to Hermannsburg, I became a bit nervous about our chances of getting into Boggy Hole. There'd been an enormous torrent through here, and half the concrete causeway had been washed away in the last few days. Although the sky was blue, I was very concerned about how much water would be lying around. We fueled up and topped up water at Hermannsburg, while two of the gang got on the computer to check out the weather map. The weather news isn't good.
We're looking. Come over here.
There's no fuel at Walgarang,
They've changed. Yeah, come down here and have a look.
and there's possibility of fuel at Hell's Gate.
Yeah, but if we go back up the blacktop,
Yeah.
so we wouldn't need to do much more than just go up there, and then we'd make our way back.
There's rain coming in on Sunday, Jeffrey.
But is everybody happy if we?
Yeah, that's terrific.
If it means going back up the same blacktop up Tennant Creek and along the Barclay until we turn left. We don't want mud. We want dust. We can go to Lawn Hill,
Yeah,
Cape
Lawn Hill.
Crawford,
Yeah,
and
all
there's
around
good
there.
dirt roads north of Cloncurry.
And maybe ended at Corumba. Come back around to Corumba.
You want to go to the Corumba pub again?
That'll do.
With all the desert roads closed, we had no option but to travel north to the Gulf country in pursuit of corrugations and bull dust that we need for our test. So it was farewell to the damp red centre for us as we headed back through Alice Springs and up the blacktop to Tennant Creek, where we camped overnight. I caught up with downloading some photos onto the computer. And the rest of the gang went off shopping in preparation for our trip north to the Gulf country and what we hoped would be corrugations on the Savannah Way. We also caught up with some much needed trailer plug repairs after all the water dousing they'd had. A couple of them were getting a bit second hand, so we opted to replace them from our spares kit. Then we hit the road again and headed north into beautiful blue sunlit skies. Everyone was warmed by the air and the prospects of dry weather for a while. Along with the warm weather came much more active predator life. This guy was an absolute beauty and took no nonsense from anyone. There were plenty of these predators around as well, but we needn't have worried because we had our own predator protector in the form of Jeffrey, alias Goanna Man. What a guy. There aren't very many camping spots on the long drag from Barclay Homestead up to Cape Crawford, but we found a nice friendly gravel pit that was level and settled in for the night. Next morning it was pack up time again. I think we witnessed a quiet little race between Charmaine and Pete in the T-van and Brenda and Jeffrey in the he-slip. The crews were very polished by now, so there were no packing dramas at all. Our destination for the day was the beautiful campground at Cape Crawford, where we fueled up and settled in for a couple of days. It gave us the opportunity to set up the optional awnings on all the camper trailers, so we could have a real good look at them, how easy they were to erect and how much protection they provided. We enjoyed lounging around at Cape Crawford on the grass under the shade of our canopies and the trees, and also enjoyed the luxury of a delicious cool swimming pool.
And I can't quite and I'm struggling to survive, to survive, to survive.
Fully refreshed, we took a side trip up to the southern Lost City, which is on the Savannah Way just to the north of Cape Crawford. And this gave us an opportunity to check out the Pajeros, Challengers and Tritons on some corrugated, dusty road. Everyone was impressed with the ride quality of the vehicles in these conditions. Although sometimes we've cursed dust, it was a real pleasure to be on corrugated and dusty road, because these are the conditions we'd been lacking until now, and we definitely wanted to check the vehicles and the trailers out in these testing conditions. Naturally though, being the top end and this year having a very late wet season, we were pleased to find there were still some water crossings to keep the vehicle bottoms nice and clean. Rolled into the car park at the Lost City, and everyone enjoyed strolling around for a couple of hours amid these fantastic eroded formations. It truly does look like a lost city, and some of the balancing acts by the rocks have to be seen to be believed. It was a warm walk in this area, and pointed out to us the enormous temperature change we'd had since we started our torture test. From -3 degrees just outside Alice Springs, where there was ice on the cars in the morning, up to the Gulf country where it was 34 degrees. So we were certainly testing the Mitsubishis and the camper trailers in extreme conditions. Next day was pack up time once again, and fully refreshed, everybody was keen to get onto the Savannah Way and head for the famous roadhouse at Hell's Gate.
It's good to dream. It's good to dream. You know what I mean? It's good to dream. It's good to dream.
With the trailers in tow, we headed down Savannah Way. This road was in reasonably good condition, considering the late wet, but was corrugated and quite rough in places, and there was plenty of dust. So we were able to check dust sealing of the Mitsubishis and the trailers and how they handled the corrugated road surface. They all ran beautifully straight and all the drivers were impressed. crossed many river channels along the Savannah Way, but the deepest by far was the Calvert River crossing. We'd heard about this back in Borroloola, and we knew to expect deep water filled with large boulders, and this crossing had turned back many caravans over the last few days. However, our combination of Mitsubishi vehicles and off-road camper trailers made light work of this deep water crossing. We got no water in any of the camper trailers, nor the Challengers or Tritons, and we got a little bit of water into the Pajeros, which are a bit lower in the sills, but no harmful water, just slight dampening of the mats. This was quite deep water, and it's about as deep as we'd want to cross without snorkels and some preparation. The classic technique for crossing water is to go at a speed that gives you a little bow wave in front of the cars. This helps keep water out of engine bays and from creeping in under door sills, but the boulders in the Calvert River made any sort of speed on this crossing quite dangerous. So we just let the vehicles idle along in low range, with the automatic transmissions soaking up any of the speed changes dictated by the stony bottom. It was good fun. We'd hardly crossed the river when Stan, our cameraman and intrepid herpetologist, spotted something on the road and rushed out. I thought it was a tiger snake, but it was a black-headed python, he pointed out, so my heart rate eased back. Then we saw a sight we've never seen before. You've heard the song Eagle Rock, and this is what it looks like. That impressed us, but it didn't impress the local roos, who were quite undisturbed. We pulled into Hell's Gate Roadhouse for the night. This is a great camping area, and there's fuel. It's cash only, but it means that we can go straight down to Lawn Hill without having to go further east to pick up fuel. The shop doesn't have what you might expect at a roadhouse, so you need to be self-sufficient in food, but there are good showers and, as you can see, a very comfortable place to stay. Next morning we headed off east and then took the right-hand turn leading to Lawn Hill via the beautiful Kingfisher Camp. We got a surprise here, or the girls did, because they're now stocking a wide range of homemade jams and pickles, so that was refreshing for us. The campground here on the Nicholson River is absolutely superb. Green grass under magnificent trees and the broad expanse of the Nicholson only a short stroll away. However, having left this oasis, it was time to battle the bulldust and corrugations once more as we headed for the Nicholson channels. This is a wide expanse of silty, sandy area and naturally more bull dust. On one soft section, the vehicles all struggled with the traction control working very nicely, and we thought we were all through. But one vehicle got hung up on a stone we hadn't seen, and the tyre dug into the sand, and it was recovery time. Because this was a very simple bogging, a stone had wedged under the rear diff, the vehicle wasn't dug down, so we elected to do a very gentle tow out. You have to be careful doing this with a trailer because you don't want to stress the trailer construction or the trailer coupling to the vehicle. But we knew this would be a very light duty extraction, and this system works very well on those easy bogging occasions. We hooked up the strap to the towing points on the Triton and to the towing points on the back of the Kimberley. And the extraction proved to be jerk-free and just as planned. From the Nicholson, we headed out across the broad grazing flats on the way to Lawn Hill and Adele's Grove, the beautiful camping area near Lawn Hill National Park. And what did we find? More bull dust, of course. The Mitsubishis and trailers were getting a fine workout. One stretch of this track had been a wet season wash away and some temporary repairs were done, so the suspension's got some workout time as well. We came across more unexpected flooding very close to Adele's Grove. This normally is a dry river channel, but it made a beautiful picture with the water flowing between the trees.
You're down at the water crossing, yeah? Just got through. Oh yeah, gotcha.
Booked in at Adele's Grove and spent the next day doing the walks in this extraordinary place. Lawn Hill is a must-see. The river was full of fish, including some archer fish, which you don't see a lot of. And the triple waterfall just has to be seen to be believed.
Here we are on one of the dusty roads with corrugations that I can feel. This was essential. When we started off this torture test, we knew what we were after. We got plenty of mud, we got plenty of rocks around the Alice, but we knew with rain forecast across the desert and on the Udnadada track that we wouldn't get dust and corrugations. So we changed plans, and that's something you have to do when you're planning a month away in the scrub. You always need to have an escape plan. Things don't always work out the way you want, and you need maps to cover a wide area, which we have. We've got a full HEMA supply, and we've got a HEMA nav system on the dashboard. So when we had to change, no great mystery. We knew we'd get plenty of dust up here in the Gulf country, and we've got it. And unseasonal rain up here has meant that instead of the creek crossings being dry, they're full of water. We've just come through an 800mm deep crossing, and some people are worried their cornflakes might have got wet, but we'll find out when we pull up this afternoon. So we're getting all the conditions we need. We've had the mud, the stones, we've had some track driving, and now we've got long stretches of testing corrugated road. Now we're on stony roads, and this is what does tyres in. Vehicle and trailer tyres. Lots of sharp stones sit up on top of the road surface, and they'll crack a tyre casing very quickly. Most of the problems in the bush are caused by a tyre with a slight cut in it or a crack that leaks, and no one picks it up. There's so much input coming from the road, rattling, things you haven't packed as well as you might, and you won't pick up a slowly deflating tyre. What happens then is the tyre gets hotter and hotter as it flexes more and more, and you get a blowout that completely destroys the tyre and may even endanger the vehicle and trailer, because you can have a sudden loss of control. These Mitsubishis have all got dynamic stability control, and that is a very, very useful safety device in these conditions. But we don't want to destroy tyres. They're expensive, it can be dangerous, so all the vehicles, one of the absolute essentials I insisted on for this test was that all the vehicles be fitted with sensor tyre pressure and temperature monitoring. So we've got it in all the tyres, trailers and the spares. So if we get a slow pressure leak, this device will sound a warning you cannot ignore. We pull up and it identifies which tyre has the slow leak. What we've found is that under most conditions we can repair that on the roadside with a plug. You wouldn't drive on the highway with it, but it's fine on dirt roads at low speeds until you get to civilization, where you can have the tyre assessed and professionally repaired. So tyre pressure monitoring is a fabulous safety device. A lot of people criticise electronics, but this is one electronic device that we just love, and it's saved us many tyres and a lot of money. Tyre pressure monitoring. It should be standard equipment on every vehicle and every trailer. I love it.
Got a copy there, Al. The tyre alarm has gone off. I am going to pull over and stop.
Okay, mate, we're not far ahead of you, coming through loud and clear. We'll turn around and give you a hand.
Thanks, Al.
It's just got a slow leak on the inside, so we'll take it off and have a bit of a look at it.
It's a slow leak, the air's coming out, the tyre then starts to flex because it's got less pressure in it, and eventually it gets so hot that it just blows completely. The whole sidewall unzips, and you saw the mess back there. And you see those rings of tread rubber on the road, but it's nearly always left rear. Okay, let's see if this little guy will plug in. If not. So, what we're going to do is find this hole. We can hear it, not sure exactly where it is. Oh yes, soapy water, perfect. Well done, Murray, that's a decent hole. We've loaded the plug in the tool into the lube. Beautiful. That's done the trick.
This tyre and every other tyre on all the vehicles and all the trailers is a Cooper. We got Cooper tyres fitted to all the vehicles because of their legendary reliability, and it proved to be true. One puncture across the whole fleet. After Adele's Grove, we drove up to Burketown and then camped overnight at Leichhardt Falls. I've been here before on the Camel Trophy way back in 1986 when this rutted stony flat was a special stage in the competition. This was a much more relaxing stay in this beautiful spot. The land-wide Solara satellite tracking device has been sitting on my back window since we left home. This device works quietly in the background, sending your position every 10 minutes back to home base. Our home base was Landwide's office in Sydney, and you'll hear a little more about this later. We fueled and refilled the larders in Normanton, which is a great little town. Everyone knows the Big Croc in the main street. It's a fun place. The railway station is fully restored and well worth a visit.
Writing some words, singing my song, trying to get some rest.
With the heavy rain down south, Karumba was full, so we'd rung already the Gulf Caravan Park, and they made space for us, which was very kind. The campground was expanded for this season, and I think if things keep going the way they are, it'll need to be expanded even more. Karumba is very popular because it provides easy access to the Gulf waters, and most places on the Gulf are mangrove swamps, hard to get to.
I'm very well, and you? Now, you've tracked us all over the country. I remember a couple of times you've rung on the satellite phone saying, are we in that river? Are we floating, or are we driving down beside it? So you found us everywhere. Where do you reckon we are now? He's umming and ahhing, I don't know. The Esplanade. Yeah, right. In Karumba. Very good. This is a great little device, mate. That's exactly where we are. And if you could see the picture, the sea is right behind us. We've got the cars all parked up on the grass here and we're looking down at the beach, and yeah, and it's a lot warmer than where you are, I reckon. Thanks a lot. Yeah, you too. Righto, thanks mate. Love the gear. See you soon. Bye. Wow. He knew exactly where we were. Again.
And here's the track that the land-wide Solara drew of our journey.
Well, we made it. We've gone from the east coast and now we're on the coast at the Gulf of Carpentaria. And in between has been some bitumen miles, mud, unbelievable mud. The road we were on was shut shortly after we got off it. We've had rocky river beds, dry creek beds, deep water crossings, corrugations, bull dust that you couldn't see through, and all the time the vehicles and trailers have performed perfectly. We've had one loose turbo hose clamp, an easy fix in Alice Springs. We've got a stone chip that's turned to a crack in one windscreen, and we've had a few electrical problems with trailer couplings that have been damaged that we fixed as we went along. Considering the conditions, over 7,000 bush kilometres, the vehicles and trailers have performed absolutely brilliantly. A great trip, we had a good crew, we drove sensibly even in the extreme conditions, and the result is a happy, successful trip. No damage and a great time had by all.